Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. So thrilled to have the Citizens Bank as a sponsor of the studio here for this show. They're doing great work in the community. Hey, listen, we're going to move over now to the marketing manager for the Hancock County Chamber, someone I really enjoy visiting with and catching up with, Ann Pitre. Ann, how you doing this morning?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you for asking, and thanks for having me back.
Cool days in coastal Mississippi. You know, it's finally getting close. It feels like fall. It hasn't felt like fall, but it does now, doesn't it?
It does. We'll get it for at least a couple of days.
You know what's interesting? I live on the water in Biloxi, and what's really interesting is that when it gets cold, suddenly, I mean, it's almost like you can just literally click your finger. The moment it gets cold, all kinds of animals start to appear behind our house. Like this morning, I did a video. I'll piece it together and post it on the Ricky Matthews Show. But there were snowy egrets and great blue herons. There was a family of otters that come by and visit us from time to time, and they just frolic around and they eat, clam shells and have fun, and then they vanish, and then we won't see them again for a while. So I don't know where they go in between trips, but when they appear, they just have fun. And look, if we have like any like crab traps out or holding pens out, they're really strong. They'll just go down and open it up. I don't care how you have it sealed. They'll open it up with their hands and climb inside and take all the crabs and just have a wonderful time. But it's coastal Mississippi comes alive with sort of the northern birds and all this neat stuff when we get this cold blast. I love the seasons here, don't you?
I do. And fall is my favorite season.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. The roses are making rose hips, the goldenrod's in bloom, the buck-eyed Susans. It's really a beautiful scene. And I love how the animals get a little bit frisky. You see more birds. I'm still seeing monarch butterflies. They're still making their little trek down to Mexico. So I'm enjoying it right there with you. Although I wish I had otters in my backyard. I'm jealous.
It's neat. It's neat. They're fun to watch. Sometimes they get up on the pier and chase each other around. It's just they have fun. It's a pretty cool thing. Hey, listen, I had the opportunity actually to exchange texts with Tish Williams. For people who don't know Tish, she's the executive director for the Hancock County Chamber and one of the iconic leaders in coastal Mississippi. People who have been here a while know her well. She came to coastal Mississippi with foundation experience, and that really served us well in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. And she and Ann, a wonderful group of leaders in Hancock County, just continue to not let any grass grow on them. They are moving fast every single day. And speaking of moving fast, when I talked to her, she was in Egypt. That's pretty cool, Ann.
Yeah, the group just returned on Sunday. We had a group of 10 travelers who went, and they just had a remarkable time. They didn't have any issues getting to and from the airport, and they did it all. They went to the major tourist things that you would want to see. They saw the pyramids of Giza, but they mostly enjoyed going into the museums to view all of the antiquities. They went to some markets where the merchants are all interactive. She brought me back a blown glass perfume bottle. It's very beautiful. And they had an opportunity to actually meet and interact with some of the local residents there. And they had a wonderful time, all positive interactions. The conflict in Israel has really affected Egypt's tourism market, which is the big foundation of their economy. So, they're trying to get the message out that it is still safe to travel, even though there are complicated times. They're trying their best to stay out of any conflict because they have some World Heritage sites that they have an interest in preserving.
I think it's cool that Tish and the Chamber are hosting these trips abroad. And I talk about it here on this show all the time that the world is it's very small. And if you think about coastal Mississippi, it is literally a proverbial melting pot. The diversity that exists here is incredible. And as you know from the conversation we were having before I came on the air, my wife's grandparents came here from Croatia, but you have a strong Italian the family of people here, the Vietnamese community, the African American community. I mean, it's just such a melting pot of a place. When you go on these trips, though,
don't forget the French.
Of course, the French. Of course, the French. Anne's grandfather was the Melançons, so I know the French side of the family really well. But you get a chance to really see for yourself the trade and investment opportunities that are taking place in these other countries. There's a natural cultural exchange that takes place. I got a couple of quotes. Let me see if I can pull them up real quick. But I have a really favorite quote by Mark Twain, and I think this fits so well. And he says, "Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness." Think about that. Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness. If we don't travel, sometimes we get a little bit too thinking about we're the center of the universe. And when you travel, you get a chance to see that most people are like us. They love their community. They love their family. They have an economy that they're trying to focus on. They're always trying to improve their situation. There are struggles all over the world. We're seeing that happen now, unfortunately, in Israel. And in Ukraine, when I have someone, Laurie Jackson, who's a missionary who's been living in Ukraine for 16 years. She's originally from Florida. And when she's on my show and we talk about what they're doing there, the kind of efforts that are going on there in Ukraine, to help families of fallen soldiers, to help what they call their fighters, the work that they do to help families, and just in general. When I talk to her, I feel like I'm talking to somebody from coastal Mississippi, because their love of their place is like our love of our place. And, they wish they weren't going through this. St. Augustine said this one: "The world is a book, and those who do not travel read only one page." I like that, just gaining perspective. But I think I'm not surprised that Tish and others there kind of understand that. And when you go off, in this case to Egypt, and you come back, it opens ideas to possibilities for the Hancock Chamber. And I'm sure Tish took a lot of notes while she was gone.
Oh, absolutely. And we totally identify with the quotes that you just mentioned. When I was in college, I also had an opportunity to live and work abroad. And I was nervous about going because I'd never been outside of Mississippi before this opportunity came about. And one of my professors told me, really, if you don't have a passport, you don't have much perspective on the world. So That's stuck with me all of these years. It's a motto that we continue to live by at the Chamber. We're actually already planning our next trip. So 2024, mark your calendars. We don't have set dates yet, but we're planning on going over to Normandy, France, and also touring the Champagne region for the 50th anniversary of D-Day.
Wow, that is going to be a phenomenal experience. Wow. I'll be talking a lot more about that as well as we go forward, because there are others from coastal Mississippi who plan to head there for the observance of the 50th anniversary. So, Ann, let's remind people what you do.
So I am the person behind the screen. I'm the great and powerful Oz for the Hancock Chamber and Tish's loyal understudy. So what I'm currently doing now is we're getting ready for some big events. November 11th, we're going to have a Veterans Day to remember. We're going to be holding our inaugural Stennis Day in the Bay. And that's going to be held in conjunction with the Bud and Burgers Grill Off. And those two events are expected to bring tons of people to town. And we're going to be doing some really special things to raise awareness for the career opportunities that are available down here. Just generally exposing people to the magnitude of the work that's being done at Stennis Space Center. We're also going to be celebrating Fred Hayes' birthday. He's going to be coming to town as we dedicate a Hancock County Heritage Star to him at the courthouse. And we're also going to be planting a moon tree next door at the Methodist Church with Rosemary Rusa.
That's so cool. I'm excited about that. I really enjoyed. I had an hour-long visit with Fred Hayes about a year ago, talking about his time growing up in Biloxi. He was actually a paper boy. You know, it's interesting how that connects a lot of leaders in the community. But it was a really wonderful visit. We're so lucky to have someone like him, such an iconic leader. And, his observations about space and what he experienced in his exploration is, it's something to listen to.
It's truly an incredible story. I mean, he is lucky to be alive. He faced some really dangerous conditions.
If you haven't
on
seen the Apollo 13 movie, I would highly recommend it. I can't imagine who hasn't at this point in time. Hey, when we come back on the other side, we'll continue our conversation with Ann Pitre and talk about why it's important to continue to bring attention to the Artemis mission, this really critical mission for Stennis Space Center. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show. I have Ann Pitre, who works for the Hancock County Chamber of Commerce, a group that I really follow closely and have on the show all the time because I'm the president of the Tish Williams fan club. And
I'm the president.
I'm the president. You can be the vice president. How about that? No, I'll tell you why. You work with her every day. You can be the president, and I'll just be the vice president. But you get the point. We have a mutual respect society here for Tish Williams. But coming up on November the 11th is Stennis Day in the Bay, and also Bud and Burgers in the Bay. In the Bay, excuse me. And we were chatting before we went to the break that we'll be celebrating Fred Hayes' birthday, the Apollo 13 astronaut's birthday there. And I think if you think about the Stennis Day and what Stennis is all about, the notion of the Artemis mission and what that's all about and Stennis's role in that, so you get to have fun. People get to do a lot of different activities on that day, which are going to be fun. You get to see Fred Hayes. That's a big deal. But if there's an overarching point here is to bring focus to Stennis and the role that Stennis plays in coastal Mississippi. It's one of the bookends. I talk about it as being one of the bookends all the time, but it's over there. It's kind of a little bit out of sight, out of mind. And every opportunity we can to kind of bring them into focus, we can really get in our heads, wow, this is big time stuff that's happening there. Isn't that true?
Absolutely. I was saying before we went to break that few people truly have a grasp on the magnitude of the work that's being done there and the impact that it has really globally. I mean, we're talking billions of dollars and thousands of people in multiple nations that are cooperating for a common goal in space exploration.
Listen, Ann, I'm curious about something. There is so much activity that's always happening in Bay St. Louis. It's become one of the communities of coastal Mississippi that's a best practice. That's great investment happening downtown. I could talk about, and I do on the show all the time about Ocean Springs and what's happened there. What's unique about Bay St. Louis, though, is that Bay St. Louis was, along with Waveland, ground zero for the worst natural disaster in American history. So when you think about the renewal and not just the restoration, but the renewal that occurred there, the building of the marina and the massive amount of investment that's gone downtown. And it's just a great story. When people come to visit the Hancock County Chamber, are they blown away? And do they say, tell me more about this? I didn't realize this was here.
They really do. And I've said this many times, when you're looking at the different communities in South Mississippi, I think they all dovetail really nicely. They kind of fit together like puzzle pieces. There's enough commonality that it really is like one big city. People don't really see the borders in between each town, but it's very European in that each one of the different communities has a very unique character, and it has a unique look. It has a unique culture. So I often hear that people who are visiting Bay St. Louis after having visited other communities on the coast say, okay, this feels totally different from the rest of the coast. Which I get that, once you get over here, you're getting more of cultural influence from the New Orleans area. People
Yeah.
sometimes joke around and call it Hancock Parish, but it it's also truly a story of resilience. I think of Hancock County as sort of a phoenix rising from the ashes. We had a major blow with Hurricane Katrina, but the amount of growth and activity and the growth and prosperity is really unbelievable. And it's been unexpected in a lot of ways. But we have a wonderful group of leaders who all have common goals. They work well with each other and they communicate with each other well. So I attribute a lot of its success to the people who are at the helm of leadership, especially Tiff.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I tell you, and I say this often, so people who are regular listeners may get tired of hearing it, but when you get tired of hearing it, someone else is just hearing it for the first time. But Haley Barber was really quick to point out after Hurricane Katrina that government can help us get back on our knees, but it's private investment that's going to help us get back on our feet. And so his goal was, we got to get schools reopened. We've got to have people have to have a place to live. We've got to build infrastructure that supports economic growth and the realities around that. But then you got to create sort of this bed of receptiveness that exists in every community that invites developers to come here and strongly consider that. So what you have, if you go to downtown Bay St. Louis, and this is not just a conversation about Bay St. Louis, but I'm just using this as an example because Hancock Chamber represents all of Hancock County. But you see, like the Pearl, for example, downtown, the massive amount of development that is taking place in a hotel like that. The amount of money that's spent, but it's investors that made that happen. And you see that happening all over the place, restaurants and cool things happening. That's the beauty of Hancock County. Final word as we're running out of time.
Final word. Oh my gosh, just come and visit. We'd love to have you here on the west side of the Mississippi Gulf Coast. We will be right here waiting with open arms, and definitely come check us out on Veterans Day. There'll be plenty for everyone to enjoy.
Absolutely. This has been Pitre from the Hancock County Chamber. Have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.